We're now joined by Reverend Robbin Mulunda, who is the head of Christian education, to just tell us more about this proposed law. Bona Reverend, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Maybe if I could just start by asking you, this Mbegu, where do you stand on this Mbegu issue?
I think the issue of Mbegu has really been in the media for quite a while.
Yes.
And I think it's I think it comes from the very basics of Christianity. Mm-hmm. In fact, not just Christianity.
Yes.
Is that all major religions, whether you are talking about Hinduism, Sikhism, Islam, and Christianity,
yes,
the whole aspect of giving is a very central aspect in their teachings. Mm-hmm. But anything good can be abused.
Yes.
And so the whole aspect about Mbegu, in fact, it's really been on media, is, I could say, it's an abuse in a way of scripture.
Yes.
Where you can use scripture in a way to particularly try to stretch the teaching, mm-hmm, and sometimes try to really benefit yourself,
yes,
in a way.
Yes.
So the very aspect of what we see today as Mbegu is mainly what has been seen in media. Mm-hmm. But the Bible actually teaches about seed planting.
Yes.
And so it's not a really kind of something that is not in the Bible, for instance. Mm-hmm. It is there, but it can be stretched. Yes. Anything good can be stretched.
Stretched, yeah.
And so for me, I think what we see a lot and what people are maybe talking about, mm-hmm, is a little bit of how people have stretched the teaching on giving and make it look like it's negative, mm-hmm, make it look like it is not required, make it look like it is unbiblical, it's unreligious.
Yes.
Yet the whole subject of giving is actually at the very core of every religious beliefs.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, since the abuse of the seed money, what have the church leaders been saying about this? Do they have like a particular stand on it? What have they done?
Any religious teaching, and particularly in Christianity, is really bound to people, to religious interpretation, theological interpretations. Mm-hmm. You actually realize on many issues in the Bible, and even in Islam,
yes,
people are always discussing what is the really teaching of this.
Yes.
And that's why we have teachers of the word, we have teachers of religion, because they keep discussing about these issues. So sometimes it could be a misinterpretation.
Yes.
And so I think the very aspect of it is that for us to know what is the right interpretation, mm-hmm, what is required of every person, yes, in terms of the giving, so that it is not abused. Mm-hmm. So for me, I think it's something that we particularly need to counter something that is negative by teaching the positive aspect.
Okay.
But we may not be in a position to tell someone to do this, because again, we are not in control of each and every person who is teaching.
Yes.
And so for me, I think the right thing is to teach what is the truth.
Okay.
Yes.
The issue of not recruiting people on TV and radio, what is your take on that?
I think that is, for me, even looking through this code, mm-hmm, I think that's the very, what can I say, the most weird about that.
Yes.
The most weird requirement, mm-hmm, about that is, yeah, because when I am preaching as a pastor, mm-hmm, whether I'm preaching on a pulpit in church,
yes,
or whether I'm preaching in an open air in the market, mm-hmm, or whether I'm preaching on TV, the very core of my message, yeah, is to convince someone to be saved.
Yes.
So if I'm standing on the pulpit and preach, and yet I don't tell you to be convinced, I don't want you, because in fact the code uses, mm-hmm, you will not even convince someone, you should not purport to convince someone, yes, to actually come and believe what you are teaching.
Yes.
Then why should you preach?
In the first place.
Yes.
Yes.
So for that, I think the whole aspect of saying we should not tell people to join that faith, mm-hmm, then in essence, then you are actually saying that there should be no preaching on television or radio.
Yes.
And in fact, then what they are actually saying, then we should actually close all religious stations. Because, wow, at every religious station, mm-hmm, in fact, at the end of the year, there are milestones that we celebrate.
Yes.
Just like KTN, you have been celebrating 2 million,
yes,
the 2 million mark of, mm-hmm, people liking on Facebook.
On Facebook.
At the end of the year, for me as a preacher, mm-hmm, whether it's at church or at the mosque, mm-hmm, or at the television, one of the measures of my success will be how many people were convinced by my message, and how many people actually got saved.
Amazing.
So if you say that, then basically you are saying we shouldn't actually not preach on radio or in TV.
Now, the Christian leaders said that they will mobilize people to go to Huru Park and seek redress. Do you think that this is going to work, or maybe they can approach it differently?
I don't think mobilizing people is the right way, because again, we don't want to fight in that way. Because I think this is legislation, these are rules,
yes.
These are made by people, and I don't think the window is closed. The fact that they have been cassetted doesn't mean that we can actually not go ahead and discuss it further.
Yes.
So for me, I think we, as the church leaders or the religious leaders, should not say, let's mobilize people. I think let's mobilize our thoughts, let's mobilize the information that we have.
Yes.
And I must say that how it is right now, it has actually factored some of the things, the opinions that we raised at the stakeholders forum, and it's just that a few of them have not been captured. So I think for me it's important that we still continue to engage the framers of these laws, and mobilizing people should be a very last resort, because that's really not the right teaching.
Maybe if you could just tell us, what is the right teaching regarding this seed money for people who don't know? Yes.
I think the right teaching is the fact that there are various types of teaching, and in terms of actually the various types of giving, where every believer in any religious organization is actually supposed to give. We have alms giving, where people are expected to give so that the religious organizations can actually minister to the needs of the poor. And that is actually something that's expected. And so if I stand and tell people to give so that we as an organization, we as a church can minister to the needs of the people who are facing serious issues like hunger and all that, that's right teaching. In the Bible, in the Quran, you find it there. Among the Hindus, it's there. There's always offering. And the offering is basically where people give according to their how, it's like free giving, where you give according to how you feel. So there is no compulsion about it. So I will tell you, give an offering, and it's up to you to decide how much am I going to give. In Christianity, we have tithes. It's a percentage of someone's earnings. And this is actually expected. In fact, when you read the Bible, for instance, it says you are expected to bring that kind of money. You're not even, it's like you're not being persuaded to give. It's like a command to give. And so there is a command for Christians, for instance, to give that. And then there is now what you call free will offerings. Now, the free will offerings is where I will come and ask you to support a particular thing, which may not be necessarily specific. And that one, that's actually now how people have actually been twisting, and now come up with any need and now support this cause. And that's how people have actually been talking about seed money and mbegu, because and they come up, and I think that's why I was saying that it can be twisted. Anything positive can be twisted, because in every teaching about giving, there is a promise of blessings. And so it can be twisted in the sense that now you come and you tell people, if you give this much, then God is going to bless you. We cannot twist God to bless someone who is giving. But yet we need to tell it that when someone gives, it actually gets blessed. So I think that's where you stretch it and then make it feel like if I don't give, then God's not going to bless me. And which is not right, because that's a free will giving. It's open for someone to make a decision whether I want to give. And even if I don't give it, as long as I give what is required, I will still be blessed.
Exactly.
Yes, so I think that's how we stretch it and make it push it out of proportion.
Earlier on, you were telling me there's a difference between the donations and the mbegu. Yes, there is a difference. In fact, what we're talking about here about this law, which forbids the mbegu giving, that for me, even if it was written in red and black and white that there was no mbegu asking on television, preaching or wherever, I'll still be very comfortable about it. But yet, when you read about the law, it actually puts it in a very
interesting way. It says that we will not ask people to support them financially. That means the broadcasters, Christian broadcasters, should not ask those who are listening to support them financially.
Yes.
Now, for the interpretation of that is that we cannot even ask viewers.
Maybe if you could briefly tell me the interpretation. Well, sorry, you have to cut you short.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. The fact that is that the interpretation means that I cannot ask people to support a program.
Yes.
And yet you know that most of the people who preach on television and everything, they run those programs as an outreach programs.
Yes.
They are not businesses. They are not making money in that. So they actually rely on donations. And so when you say they will not ask for support, then basically you are saying we cannot even come and say you can support this program.
Thank you very much,
Yes.
Reverend Mulunda there, talking about the proposed law to rein on the men of clothes.